congas. So you have the open tone, just a round tone. Then you have the slap, lower drum. All right, there's a few different ways to develop this tone, but I want to let you know and encourage you. This may not sound like encouragement, but this is the hardest tone to get. So you have different types of slaps. You have the open slap, closed slap with one hand on the drum, or no hand on the drum and just coming down here, so you can make it drier, sound different. And then you have the open slap, which has some of this wherever it's tuned, wherever it's tuned. So open slap. So that tuning, doom, doom, boom, boom, pow. There's the slap. Tune there, and you can hear a little bit of that, as opposed to a closed slap. All right, now you can make that slap drier, right? You can make it sound different, and it really depends on the drum itself as well, okay? And the makeup of the drum, how it's made. Now, a couple ways that we can develop this. Think about, if you're having a hard time with this, think about your hands being like a tortilla, Think about holding a tortilla or a hamburger patty in your hand. And you're just going to flip that tortilla over. Or let's say it's on a spatula and you're about to flip it over. So you scoop it over and you're holding it here and you're about to just flip it over. So flip your hand over and just let your fingertips come down on the drum. Don't worry about how it sounds right now. Just let it come down and flop. So I'm just gonna let my hands plop. Don't do anything with your hand except let it plop on the drum. Okay? It's not gonna be a perfect sound, but it's gonna be a bit of a plop. Now, notice if you're relaxed, your hand may land with a little bit of curve, and look at where your fingertips are. They are down on, or they are pointing more towards the ground a little bit, as opposed to up towards the ceiling, okay? That's what we want. When our fingernails are up towards the ceiling and our hand is bowed out like this, it's gonna cause your hand, okay, to push air down, or more of the flesh of the drum to hit on the top, the head of the drum. More of the flesh of your hand, to hit on the drum. And then you're gonna get a thud. Right? You don't want that. You want just the attack of the head. And what I mean by attack is when your flesh of your hand, your actual hand, just hits the skin of the drum. Okay? That's all you want. You don't want the air pushed out. You don't want the low end. You don't want any of that. But when our hands are like this, that's going to happen. Now, the better you get at the slap, the more flat you can make your hands. But if you notice, and I'm doing it a little bit so you can see it, exaggerating just a tiny bit, there's still a little bit of a curve as opposed to completely flat. As opposed to completely flat, there's still a little bit of this. Okay? Now, but what if you were to look really close, you'd notice there's a little bit of fine motor movement here. Okay? Because what's happening is the majority of the work is done with the edge of this pinky, the edge of this ring finger, and long finger here. All right? Still the rest of my hand, but a lot of it is right there. Now, the other thing is that the rim of the drum over here, the middle of my hand is kind of coming down on that rim, and it's stopping it and allowing the hand to come down here. I was going to say flop quickly, to come down here and just hit at the edges of the fingertips. That doesn't mean I'm hitting or hammering the rim. I'm trying to use my words carefully here, because there's certain verbs or adjectives. Adjectives that verbs, actions that will describe the motion correctly. All right. If I am hammering, think like you're hammering, you're adding some force. Now, there's a way to hammer, or there's a way to use like a baseball bat or a golf swing, where you allow the momentum of the weight of the thing that you're holding to hit whatever it is you're hitting, or you can actually muscle it in, right? But when you muscle it a little bit more, you're kind of squeezing the handle and you are throwing the weight of your hand down as opposed to allowing gravity to work as well. I'm not pushing my hand necessarily down onto the rim as if I'm just trying to hit this rim as hard as I can. I'm actually just allowing the gravity. I'm pulling, I am kind of doing a little bit, but I'm not just hammering away. I'm using just the weight of my arm to come down on the rim, but I'm not continuing to go and hit through the rim. So as soon as I come down here, okay, not hitting the rim, as soon as my hand contacts, I just kind of add a tiny bit of flexion on my arm, a tiny little bit of tension, just a little bit, enough to no longer push through the drum. I'm just letting the weight of my arm meet the drum and then letting the rest of my hand come down here, okay? So I'm allowing the rim to create momentum, and that is causing, there's movement of speed, and it's transferring all the way to my fingertips. Now, how my fingertips look will result in the sound. If I do this, see how I'm bowing them out and then the fingernails end up? It's not going to have just the attack of the head. It's going to actually push air out of the drum, and I'm going to get more of where the drum is tuned, and I'm going to get more of the lower frequencies and more of the thud and all of the things that I don't want. I want a higher pitch attack sound, a plop. I want a slap. Pow! It's a similar thing that's happening like a towel when you roll it around, or a whip, you know, and it transfers to the edge of it. So there's fine motor movements that are happening. So when we come back to this flop, you're allowing your hand to relax and just the weight of your arm come down, right? And then you're just working on, at first, a plop versus a thud or an open tone. And at first, it doesn't have to be a perfect tone. It just has to be different than this. That's not the most exciting slap right there, okay? But it is a plop, and it's different than this, and it's different than this. Excuse me. Bass, open, plop. Even with that plop, it sounds different. And now I can make rhythms with distinct sounds. And that plop will get better, but at least it's more of an attack. So you want to watch where the fingernails are, and you can use this. Now, as you get better with this technique, you can start taking this out and just come down here and just add that plop. Now, if I were to exaggerate it a little bit, I can fit enough air underneath my hand that a pencil or a pen can fit under there. But I don't want to get too exaggerated with this and create a habit so that I can't flatten my hands later. Why do I want my hands a little more flat? For efficiency. Later on, as we play rhythms, there is an aesthetic appeal as well. However, a lot of it is efficiency. I want to be able to be efficient with my playing, to be able to do more with less. And being able to do that is going to eventually translate and help. All right? It's posture, it is aesthetics, but it is also that I have more control over my hand without having to over exaggerate those movements. And then I can go into the next movement quicker. Okay? So these are a couple ways. I have another video on it where I also go more into depth, but you want the fingernails to be pointed down, not up here, hand not bowed forward, slight tilt. Just be relaxed, the weight of your hand, your arm up, like a string's pulling up here, coming down, boom. I connect here, and then I let my fingernails, the edge of my fingertips come down. Remember, you're not hitting. It's not, try not to hit through the drum. As soon as you touch, try to do it with least amount of force as possible. The other thing that might help you is if you open up your fingers just a little bit. Don't go crazy with this, okay? Just a little bit. Don't have your hands too close together. Might be hard for you at first. Let your hands be a little bit looser, and that'll allow you to be a little more relaxed and have that fine motor control. Slap.